The air in the death chamber changed first. Harry Potter stumbled backward as the temperature dropped 10 degrees in 3 seconds. His breath misted white. The stone archway ahead, ancient crumbling at the edges, sat in the center of the circular room like a monument to something forgotten. A black veil hung within it, weightless, moving without wind. It had been whispering for the past minute. Now it screamed, not with sound, with pressure. Harry's ears popped. Neville Longbottom collapsed to one knee, hands over his face. Luna Lovegood stood perfectly still, head tilted, listening to something the rest of them couldn't hear. "Back!" Hermione gasped. "Everyone back!" Too late. The veil rippled. Something beneath it pushed outward like fingers stretching fabric. The whispers multiplied, hundreds of voices, then thousands overlapping until the words bled into white noise. A ministry official in purple robes lurched toward the archway, reaching for the veil with both hands. Sirius Black tackled him sideways. They hit the floor hard. "Don't touch it," Sirius snarled. "Don't even look at it directly." But the official wasn't listening. His eyes had gone glassy, unfocused. His mouth moved, forming words in a language that predated English. Ancient, guttural, wrong. The veil expanded. It didn't tear or stretch. It simply became larger, the black fabric billowing outward in slow, deliberate waves. The whispers grew teeth. Harry felt them scrape against the inside of his skull, promising things he didn't have words for. Promises that felt like threats. Threats that felt like home. Then the temperature stabilized. Everyone froze. A figure stood beside the archway. Small. Silver hair caught the dim light from the chamber's floating orbs. She wore traveling clothes, practical, worn, nothing ceremonial. A wooden staff rested in her right hand, tip touching the stone floor. She tilted her head, studying the veil the way a scholar might examine a particularly interesting manuscript. Her eyes narrowed slightly. One hand rose, fingers spread as if tracing invisible patterns in the air. "This isn't a duel," she said. Her voice carried no accent Harry recognized. Flat, clinical. "This is something that consumes people, literally." Kingsley Shacklebolt had his wand raised before she finished speaking. "Identify yourself." The woman didn't look at him. She extended her left hand toward the veil, fingers spread. Blue light flickered between her knuckles. Not fire, not lightning. Something else entirely. The air around her hand warped, bending inward. "The boundary is unstable." She continued, still focused on the archway. "It resonates like a threshold to the dead." Someone tried to manipulate it. Incorrectly. Remus Lupin moved to Sirius's side, wand steady. "Who are you?" "Frieren." Nothing else. No title, no explanation. The veil pulsed again. This time, the whispers formed words Harry almost understood. Names, dates, fragments of conversations from people who'd been dead for centuries. The ministry official Sirius had tackled started convulsing. Foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. Frieren knelt beside him. She pressed 2 fingers to his temple. The convulsions stopped. "He'll wake up," she said. "But he won't remember the last 5 minutes. Better that way." Alastair Moody clomped forward, magical eye spinning in its socket. "You're not from the ministry." "Not from any magical government I recognize. What are you?" Frieren stood. She was shorter than Harry, barely reaching his shoulder. But when she turned to face Moody, something in her expression made the old aura take half a step back. "I'm someone who has seen things like this before," she said. "And I'm telling you, if you don't evacuate this building in the next 10 minutes, the body count will be in the thousands." The veil rippled one more time. A crack appeared in the stone floor running from the archway's base toward the nearest wall. It spread like a spider web, each branch glowing with the same sickly light that pulsed behind the veil's fabric. Dumbledore arrived, then appearing in the doorway, with a crack of displaced air that made everyone flinch. His silver hair was disheveled, his robes askew. He took in the scene in 2 seconds, the veil that cracks Frieren, standing calmly in the center of potential catastrophe. "Albus Dumbledore," he said, addressing her directly. "Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. You have information we need." Frieren met his gaze. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she nodded once. "The veil is a threshold. It's been stable for centuries because nobody tried to manipulate it. Someone did tonight. Badly. Now it's trying to expand into a portal." "Portal to where?" Dumbledore asked. "Know where you want to go." The crack in the floor reached the wall. Stone dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere in the building's depths, something massive groaned. Frieren turned back to the veil. "It's learning. Every second it stays open, it understands more about this building's structure. The wards, the protective enchantments. Soon it won't need them anymore." Harry's scar burned. Not the sharp stabbing pain that meant Voldemort was near something different. Deeper. As if the space beyond the veil reacted to something broken inside him. Recognized the piece of death he carried without knowing why. "We need to close it," Hermione said. Her voice shook. "Now! You can't close it." Frieren's tone didn't change. Still flat, still clinical. "You can only contain it. Seal off the affected areas. Cut the connections before it spreads." Dumbledore's expression hardened. "That would require destroying portions of the Ministry itself." "Yes, the Minister will never authorize. Then the Minister will preside over a graveyard," the veil breathed. That was the only word for it. The fabric expanded and contracted like lungs, and with each cycle the whispers grew louder. Harry heard his mother's voice, then his father's, then Cedric Diggory's calling his name from somewhere beyond the black. Frieren raised her staff. The blue light around her hand intensified, forming a sphere that cast sharp shadows across the curved walls. "I can buy you time," she said. "Evacuate everyone from this level and the 2 above it. Then seal the access points. I'll handle the rest." "Handle it how?" Moody demanded. Frieren looked at him. Her green eyes reflected the veil's light, making them appear almost luminous in the dim chamber. "By cutting it off at the source." The floor shook. Not an earthquake, something worse. A rhythmic pulsing that matched the veil's breathing. Harry felt it in his teeth, his bones, the spaces between his thoughts. Dumbledore made a decision. "Kingsley begin evacuation. Remus coordinate with the Auror office. Sirius get the students out. Now." Nobody moved. "I said now." They moved. Harry let Hermione pull him toward the door, but he looked back once. Frieren stood alone before the archway, staff planted firmly on cracked stone. The veil reached toward her like a living thing, black fabric rippling with hunger. She didn't step back. The last thing Harry saw before Sirius dragged him into the corridor was Frieren raising her other hand. Fingers splayed as blue light erupted from her palm in a controlled burst that made the air itself scream. Then the door slammed shut, and the death chamber became someone else's problem, someone who understood what it was. The evacuation began badly. 2 ministry officials blocked the corridor outside the death chamber wands, drawn faces pale. The shorter one, Williamson, according to his badge, planted himself in front of Dumbledore. "Sir, we cannot authorize destruction of government property without the minister's direct." "Then find him." Dumbledore's voice carried no heat, just certainty. "You have 4 minutes." Williamson's wand hand trembled. Behind him, the door to the death chamber rattled in its frame. Stone dust drifted from the ceiling like snow. Kingsley Shacklebolt stepped forward. "The headmaster is acting under emergency protocols. Section 7 of the I know the protocols." Williamson's voice cracked. "But this is the ministry. We don't just blow holes in our own infrastructure because some stranger says." Frieren walked past him. She didn't push, didn't touch, simply moved through the space where he stood, and Williamson stumbled backward as if shoved by invisible hands. His wand clattered to the floor. She stopped 3 paces down the corridor, staff tapping once against stone. The anchor points are in the walls. 3 floors up, 2 floors down. If you wait for approval, there won't be anyone left to give it. Dumbledore studied her. You've examined the building's structure. Yes. How? Frieren turned. The blue light around her fingertips had faded, but something in her expression suggested she could reignite it without effort. The same way you read a book. I looked. Moody's magical eye spun wildly, trying to focus on her on the corridor, on the death chamber door simultaneously. What are you? Practical. The word landed with more weight than it should have. Remus Lupin glanced at Sirius, who was shepherding students toward the lifts. Harry Potter kept looking back, lightning scar visible even from this distance. Dumbledore raised one hand. The corridor went quiet. Miss Frieren. His tone shifted. Not commanding, requesting. Walk me through it. She nodded once. The threshold has been stable for centuries because it exists in equilibrium. Death on one side, life on the other. Someone tried to pull something through tonight. The balance broke. Who? Does it matter? Frieren glanced at the death chamber door. The damage is done. Now it's expanding. Learning the building's wards. Finding weak points. Learning. Dumbledore's eyes narrowed. You speak of it as if it thinks. It doesn't, but it adapts. Like water finding cracks in stone. Kingsley rejoined them, slightly out of breath. The atrium is clear. Most of level 9 is evacuated. But the unspeakables are refusing to leave their research. Then they die. Frieren's tone didn't change, matter of fact. You have approximately 6 minutes before the expansion reaches the Hall of Prophecy. After that, the structural damage becomes irreversible. Williamson had retrieved his wand. He pointed it at Frieren with shaking hands. You can't just... We have protocols the minister needs to... Dumbledore moved. Not fast, not threatening. He simply placed himself between Williamson and Frieren, and the official's words died in his throat. Lower your wand, Mr. Williamson. Sir, she's advocating for the destruction of... She is advocating for survival. Dumbledore's voice remained calm, almost gentle. And I agree with her assessment. The corridor shook, not violently. A deep rolling tremor that made the floating torches flicker and die. Emergency lights activated, cold, white, harsh. In the sudden glare, Frieren looked smaller, younger. But her eyes tracked the vibration source with absolute focus. It's testing the lower levels, she said, pushing against the wards. Another minute and it'll find the foundation. Moody clomped closer. If we destroy the anchor points, what happens to the door itself? It collapses inward, seals, becomes inert. And if you're wrong, Frieren met his gaze. His magical eye and his real one both. Then we all die here. But we're going to die anyway, if you keep standing around asking questions. Sirius returned slightly winded. Students are out. Order members are securing level 8. Dumbledore turned to Kingsley. Contact the Auror office. Tell them we're implementing Emergency Protocol 12. Sir, that's never been used. Not even during... Tonight it will be. Dumbledore looked at Remus. Get the unspeakables out. Use force if necessary. Remus nodded and disappeared down a side corridor. Frieren walked to the nearest wall. She pressed her palm against the stone fingers splayed. Blue light seeped from her hand into the rock, spreading like veins. The wall groaned. Here, she said. This is an anchor. There are 4 more like it. Different levels. If I destroy them in sequence, the threshold loses stability and collapses. And the building? Moody asked. Sections of it come down, maybe a quarter of this level. Parts of 8 and 10. Williamson made a choking sound. That's government property worth nothing. Frieren withdrew her hand. The light faded. It's worth nothing if everyone inside is dead. Dumbledore stepped beside her. He examined the wall where she'd touched it, then looked at her directly. If I authorize this, there's no going back. The ministry will demand answers, accountability. They'll want someone to blame. They can blame me. They will. A slight smile touched Dumbledore's lips. Sad. Knowing. You understand what you're offering. Frieren tilted her head. I've buried cities before. Buildings don't matter. People do. For 3 heartbeats, Dumbledore held her gaze. Then he nodded. Do it. Williamson started to protest. Moody grabbed his shoulder hard enough to make him wince. Shut up. The adults are working. Frieren raised her staff. I need everyone out of levels 8, 9, and 10. 5 minutes. You'll have 3, Dumbledore said. After that, I can't guarantee the wards will hold. She almost smiled. 3 is enough. They moved. Kingsley coordinated orders. Sirius pulled the last stragglers from side chambers. Moody dragged 2 unspeakables away from their experiments, bodily ignoring their protests. The building continued to tremble slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat growing stronger. Frieren stood motionless in the corridor, waiting, staff planted, eyes half closed. Dumbledore remained with her. You feel it, he said, not a question. Yes. What does it feel like? Frieren opened her eyes. Like a door that was never meant to open from this side. Someone forced it. Now it won't close. You've seen this before. Similar, not identical. She paused. Where I come from, we call them thresholds. Places where the boundary between life and death grows thin. Most stay stable. This one was violated. By whom? Someone desperate or stupid, possibly both. Dumbledore's expression darkened. Voldemort? Frieren glanced at him. The one who fears death, obsessively, then yes. This has his fingerprints. Trying to pull knowledge from the other side. Trying to understand what he's trying to escape. The corridor lights flickered again. This time they didn't come back. Only emergency strips remained, casting everything in sickly green. Remus returned. Levels clear. Last group is in the lifts now. Good. Dumbledore looked at Frieren. Whenever you're ready. She stepped toward the wall. Raised both hands. The staff began to glow, not blue this time, but white cold and sharp as winter sunlight. This will be loud, she said. Then she pressed her palms to the stone. The world broke. Not with fire. Not with explosion. With pressure. The air condensed, compressed, forced inward until it screamed. The wall cracked vertically, horizontally, diagonally, a spider web of fractures spreading faster than thought. Stone dust became a cloud. The anchor point shattered, and the building held. Barely. Dumbledore's wand was out, silver light forming a dome over their heads as debris rained down. Moody had conjured a shield. Sirius pulled Remus behind a pillar. Frieren lowered her hands. The white light faded. 1 down, she said. 4 to go. Kingsley stared at the ruined wall. How are you still standing? Frieren looked at him. Practice. The death chamber door exploded outward, not physically. The door stayed intact, but a wave of cold rolled through it, black visible wrong. It moved like liquid shadow, spreading across the ceiling, the floor reaching for them with dozens of grasping tendrils. Dumbledore's shield held. Barely. It knows, Frieren said. It felt the anchor break. Now it's trying to compensate. Can you stop it? Not here. I need to destroy the others first. Cut it off completely. The shadow wave pushed harder. Dumbledore's shield began to crack. Silver light fractured like glass. Moody fired a curse at the darkness. It passed through without effect. Fall back, Dumbledore ordered. Level 8, now. They ran. The corridor behind them filled with whispers. Thousands of voices speaking in unison, promising things that sounded like comfort and felt like drowning. Frieren was the last to leave, walking backward, staff raised, maintaining a barrier of her own thinner than Dumbledore's, but holding. The lift doors closed. The mechanism groaned, ancient gears protesting. They descended. Dumbledore leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Maintaining that shield had cost him. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Frieren stood perfectly straight, calm, as if she'd just finished a walk. 4 more, she said. Then it's done. Moody glared at her. And what happens if one of those anchors is in a part of the building we can't evacuate in time? Then people die. She met his glare without flinching. Fewer than if we do nothing. The lift shuddered to a stop. Level 8. The doors opened onto chaos. Aurors shouting, ministry workers fleeing, alarms blaring in 6 different tones. And beneath it all, a new sound. Low, rhythmic, patient. The veil was breathing. Then the alarms cut out, all of them, simultaneously. Moody's magical eye spun toward the atrium levels. We've got company. Multiple signatures. Moving fast. Dumbledore's expression hardened. Death Eaters. They're heading for the Hall of Prophecy, Kingsley said, wand already drawn. Frieren stepped out of the lift, turned left, walked 10 paces, stopped before another section of wall. Here, she said. Dumbledore joined her. How much time do we have? She pressed her ear to the stone, listened. The sound of running footsteps echoed from somewhere above. Curses, screams, not enough. Then she raised her hands, and the building began to tear itself apart. The curse came without warning. Green light split the corridor. Harry threw himself sideways, pulling Hermione down. The spell hit the wall where they'd been standing and left a smoking crater. Bellatrix Lestrange stepped from the Shadow's wand, extended, grinning. Little children playing war? How sweet. 4 more Death Eaters materialized behind her. Black robes, silver masks, moving in formation like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Neville stumbled backward. His wand shook in his hand. Run, Harry gasped. Now, the second curse caught Neville in the chest. Not green, purple. He collapsed, screaming, body arching off the floor. Cruciatus. The sound echoed off stone walls, amplified, turned into something inhuman. Hermione fired a stunning spell. It went wide. A Death Eater laughed. Then the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Frieren stepped between them and the attackers. No dramatic entrance, no announcement. She was simply there, staff in hand, positioned like she'd calculated the exact angle to block 5 lines of fire simultaneously. Bellatrix's grin widened. And what are you supposed to... Frieren tapped her staff against the floor once. The corridor disappeared, not in an explosion, not in fire. The stone simply ceased to exist. 20 feet of hallway wall, ceiling, floor removed as cleanly as if someone had erased it from a drawing. The Death Eaters stood on the edge of empty air masks, reflecting sudden confusion. One started to fall. Frieren extended her left hand. Invisible force caught him, suspended him in mid-void, then flung him backward into his companions. They crashed in a tangle of limbs and curses. Move, Frieren said. Her voice carried no inflection, just instruction. Harry grabbed Neville under the arms. Hermione supported his other side. They ran. Behind them, Bellatrix shrieked something wordless and furious. Green light flashed again. Each curse aimed to kill, no hesitation, no mercy. None of them connected. The air bent. Harry saw it happen, impossible geometry, space folding in on itself. The killing curses veered left, then right, then up, slamming into walls that weren't their intended targets. Frieren didn't block them. She made them irrelevant. Moody appeared from the side passage, magical eye spinning. How many? 5, Frieren said. Well-trained, coordinated. Death Eaters always are. He fired a curse over her shoulder, something red and crackling. Can you? Yes. She didn't elaborate. Another section of corridor vanished. This time vertical, a clean slice through stone, creating an instant barrier. Death Eaters on one side, students and order members on the other. Silence, then Bellatrix's voice, muffled but clear. Bring it down. Reducto. Multiple casters. The barrier shuddered but held. Dust rained from impacts that should have shattered granite. Frieren turned to Moody. Get them to the lifts. I'll handle this. Alone. Yes, Harry wanted to argue. Wanted to say they should fight together, that 5 against 1 wasn't fair. But the words died in his throat when he saw her expression. Calm. Clinical. Like she'd already calculated every possible outcome and found them all manageable. Moody grabbed Harry's shoulder. You heard her. Go. They went. The corridor behind them erupted in light, not green this time, but white so bright Harry's eyes watered. He heard stone crack, metal scream, voices shouting in confusion and pain. No voices from Frieren. She worked in silence. They reached the lift. Dumbledore was already there, coordinating evacuation with Kingsley. His robes were scorched. Blood ran from a cut above his left eye. The students, he demanded. Safe, Moody said. The elf's buying time. Frieren. Dumbledore's tone sharpened. Where? Level 9, Corridor Junction. 5 Death Eaters. Dumbledore's wand came up. The building shook. Not a tremor this time, a genuine earthquake. The floor bucked. Walls cracked. Ancient enchantments protecting the Ministry's foundation screamed in protest. Then it stopped. Complete silence. Dumbledore and Moody exchanged glances. Kingsley muttered something that might have been a prayer. Harry looked back toward the corridor they'd fled. Nothing. Just empty darkness and settling dust. Frieren emerged 30 seconds later, alone. Her staff's tip scraped stone as she walked. No blood on her clothes. No damage visible. She looked exactly as she had when the fight started, small, pale, utterly composed. They retreated, she said. Moody's real eye narrowed. All of them. 2 teleported out. 1 is unconscious. 2? She paused. The veil took them. Harry's stomach lurched. You mean they got too close to the expansion? It pulled them through. No emotion in her voice. Just fact. I warned them. They didn't listen. Dumbledore studied her for a long moment. And the unconscious one. Bound. 3rd Junction Eastern Passage. You'll find him there. Kingsley moved immediately, taking 2 Aurors with him. Hermione finally found her voice. You fought 5 Death Eaters, alone, in less than a minute. Frieren looked at her. I didn't fight them. I removed the battleground. Different approach. But they were using... Hermione's academic instinct fought with shock. They were using unforgivable curses. Avada Kedavra. You can't block. I didn't block. I made sure they couldn't aim. The distinction seemed important to her. Harry didn't fully understand it, but he felt the weight of it anyway. The lift groaned. They descended. Neville had stopped screaming. He lay curled on the floor, Remus kneeling beside him, wand moving in precise patterns that left traces of golden light. Healing charm. Good one. Frieren watched for 3 seconds. Then she knelt on Neville's other side and pressed 2 fingers to his temple. The residual twitching stopped. Neville's breathing steadied. He'll need medical attention, Frieren said. But the curse damage is contained. Remus stared at her. How did you? Pain leaves patterns. I interrupted them. She stood, moved to the lift's back corner, leaned against the wall with the posture of someone conserving energy for what came next. The lift shuddered to a stop, level 8. Chaos greeted them. Aurors dueling dark-robed figures in the Hall of Prophecy. Glass orbs shattering. Prophecies dying before anyone could hear their contents. The floor was slick with something that glowed faintly blue. Dumbledore took it in with one sweep. Protect the prophecies. Minimal force. We need prisoners. He strode into the hall, wand work already beginning shields that deflected bindings, that trapped counters, that neutralized without destroying. Frieren didn't follow. She turned left, walked toward a section of wall that looked identical to every other section. Harry followed. He didn't know why, just felt like he should. She stopped, pressed her palm flat against stone. Azure luminescence spread from her fingertips, mapping something invisible beneath the surface. Another anchor, she said. Not to Harry, just thinking aloud. For the veil. Yes. How many left? 3. This one. 2 more on different levels. She withdrew her hand. The glow faded. But the Death Eater attack changed priorities. How? Frieren glanced toward the Hall of Prophecy. Curses flashed. Someone screamed. Dumbledore's voice rose above the chaos, calm and commanding. "They're here for prophecies," she said. "Not the veil." Which means whoever sent them doesn't know the veil is about to consume the entire building. Harry processed that. So they're ignorant, or they know and don't care. She turned back to the wall. Either way, it doesn't change what needs to happen. This anchor breaks. Now. But Dumbledore said, he said protect the prophecies. I am. By ensuring the room doesn't collapse into a portal to the dead. Hard to argue with that logic. Frieren planted her staff, held both palms toward the wall. The white light from before began to build, not in her hands this time, but in the air around her, as if she were drawing power from empty space. "You should step back," she said. Harry stepped back. The anchor shattered. This time it was louder. The pressure wave knocked Harry off his feet. Stone exploded outward in chunks, then froze mid-air, held by invisible force. Frieren's doing. She rotated her wrist, and the debris shot sideways away from the hall, embedding itself in a wall that was already ruined. The building groaned. Deep beneath them, something vast and old protested. The veil's influence. Harry felt it in his scar, not pain, but presence. Like standing near something that shouldn't exist but did anyway. Frieren lowered her hands. The light died. 2 more, she said, from the hall. Dumbledore's voice. Status quo. Anchor destroyed. Frieren called back. Her volume didn't increase. Somehow, her voice carried anyway. Proceeding to the next level. No response. Dumbledore was busy. Curses still flashed. But Harry heard the note of acknowledgement in the sudden shift of spell pattern, Dumbledore adjusting his strategy to account for structural damage. They worked well together without communicating. Harry noted that. Frieren headed for the stairs, not the lift. Stairs. Faster, she explained. And I don't trust mechanical systems in a building this compromised. Fair point. They descended. 3 floors. The temperature dropped with each level. By the time they reached level 11, Harry could see his breath again. The corridor here was older. Stone darker. Enchantments visible as faint shimmer in the air, ancient protective magic that predated the ministry itself. Frieren stopped in the middle of the hall, closed her eyes, stood perfectly still. "What are you?" Listening. Harry went quiet. After 10 seconds, her eyes opened. "It's closer than I thought. The veil's influence has already reached this level. The anchor is failing on its own." "Is that bad?" "Extremely." She broke into a run, not a sprint. A calculated pace that covered ground fast without wasting energy. Harry struggled to keep up. His legs burned. His scar throbbed. They rounded a corner and found it. The wall was bleeding, not literally. But black liquid seeped from cracks in the stone, pooling on the floor, spreading like oil. Where it touched the enchantments, they flickered and died. Voices whispered from the liquid. Dozens. Hundreds. All speaking at once in languages Harry didn't recognize. Frieren skidded to a halt, tilted her head, frowned. "That's new," she said. "What is it?" "The veil isn't just expanding anymore. It's learning to manifest. Physical presence outside its original boundary." She stepped closer, not touching the liquid but examining it from inches away. "Interesting. Interesting." Harry's voice cracked. "That's interesting." "Academically?" She withdrew, planted her staff. "Still needs to be destroyed. Can you?" "Yes, but you need to leave. This one will be messy." Harry hesitated. Frieren looked at him directly, green eyes steady. No fear, no doubt. "I've been fighting things like this for longer than your country has had a name," she said. "Go." Harry went. He made it 15 steps before the world turned white. The anchor didn't shatter. It evaporated. Stone metal enchantments. Everything within a 10-foot radius simply ceased to exist. The shockwave threw Harry forward. He hit the floor hard, ears ringing, vision blurred. When he looked back, Frieren stood at the center of an empty sphere carved from solid ministry foundation. The black liquid had burned away. The whispers were gone. She stepped out of the crater like she'd just finished a walk. 2 down, she said. 1 to go. Then the building screamed, not metaphorically. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, all of it produced a sound like metal tearing. Cracks spiderwebbed everywhere. Enchantments failed in cascades. Emergency wards activated, then overloaded, then died. Frieren's expression shifted, just slightly, from calm to focused. "It knows," she said. "The veil knows what we're doing, and it doesn't approve." The corridor behind them filled with shadow. The same liquid darkness they'd just destroyed, but more of it moving faster, reaching toward them with purpose. Harry grabbed for his wand. Frieren was faster. She swept her staff in a horizontal arc. A barrier materialized, translucent, shimmering absolute. The shadow hit it and stopped. Pushed. Screamed silently against resistance. "Run," Frieren said. Still calm, still clinical. "I'll hold it here. You get to the lifts. What about you?" She glanced at him, almost smiled. "I'm several centuries past needing rescue." Harry ran. Behind him, light and darkness fought. He didn't look back. Didn't want to see. Just focused on putting distance between himself and whatever was happening in that corridor. He found the lift. Burst through the doors. Hermione and Neville were already there, along with 3 aurors he didn't recognize. "Where's T?" Hermione started. The building shook again. This time it didn't stop. The floor tilted. Walls buckled. Somewhere distant, something massive collapsed. The sound rolled through the ministry like thunder trapped underground. Then silence. Perfect. Total wrong. The lift doors opened. Frieren stepped through. No visible damage. No exhaustion. She looked at the assembled group and said 4 words. 1 anchor remaining. Atrium. Dumbledore appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. "The atrium is compromised. Voldemort's there." Frieren nodded once. "Good." Everyone stared at her. "Good," Moody demanded. "Yes. Better to end it all in one place." She looked at Dumbledore. "If I destroy the final anchor while he's present, he'll either have to flee or be caught in the collapse. Either way, we win." Dumbledore's expression was unreadable. "You're willing to fight him. I'm willing to remove the problem." She paused. "There's a difference." The lift shuddered. They ascended. Harry's scar burned. Really burned this time. Voldemort was close and angry. He looked at Frieren, small, calm, ready, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Harry thought they might actually survive. The atrium had been beautiful once, marble floors polished to mirror shine. The fountain of magical brethren. Standing proud at the center, golden statues of witch, wizard, centaur, goblin, and house elf, all frozen in poses of cooperation and dignity. Enchanted ceilings showing stars that had never existed, constellations drawn from imagination rather than astronomy. Now it was a war zone. Bodies lay scattered. Ministry workers, aurors. One Death Eater with his mask cracked, revealing a face too young to have earned such hatred. The fountain had been shattered. Water pooled across cracked marble, reflecting emergency lighting in shades of sickly green. And in the center of it all, standing perfectly still, stood Lord Voldemort. He didn't look like the thing from Harry's nightmares. No towering monster. No dramatic robes billowing without wind. Just a man, pale, thin, serpentine, who radiated wrongness the way fire radiated heat. His wand was raised, not pointing at anyone, just ready. Dumbledore stepped into the atrium from the northern entrance. His own wand was already drawn, held at precisely the angle that suggested complete control without aggression. "Tom." His voice carried across the vast space. Calm, almost gentle. "You've made quite a mess." Voldemort's lipless mouth curved, not a smile. An acknowledgement. Albus? Still playing shepherd to lost sheep. Someone has to. The air between them compressed. No spell cast, no word spoken. Just two wizards who'd fought this same battle 100 times, feeling each other out, measuring distances and angles, and how much force would be required to break the other. Harry pressed against a pillar 20 feet away, Hermione beside him. They'd been caught in the evacuation chaos, separated from the main group. Now they were trapped. Frieren emerged from the eastern corridor. She walked with the same unhurried pace she'd maintained since the beginning. No rush, no hesitation. She surveyed the atrium with clinical interest. Damaged fountain-fallen bodies, two wizards locked in pre-duel tension. Voldemort noticed her immediately, his head turned. Red eyes focused. For 3 heartbeats, he studied her the way a scholar might study an unexpected artifact. "And what," he said softly, "are you?" Frieren stopped 10 paces from the fountain's ruins. Her reply came without inflection. "Busy." She knelt, pressed her palm to the marble. Azure light spread from her hand, mapping patterns invisible to normal sight. Voldemort's wand shifted toward her. Dumbledore moved. Fire erupted from his wand. Not a spell, just raw, elemental force shaped by will. It formed a wall between Voldemort and Frieren, 12 feet high, blazing white gold. Voldemort flicked his wrist. The fire parted. Didn't extinguish. Parted like a curtain drawn back, and through the gap came a curse that made the air scream. Dumbledore conjured a shield. Silver, geometric, perfect. The curse hit and shattered into sparks that burned holes in marble. The duel began properly. Harry had seen magic before. Had cast spells, dueled in classes, fought for his life in the graveyard. But this was different. This was warfare practiced by people who'd spent decades perfecting the art of controlled destruction. Dumbledore animated the fountain's broken statues. The centaur reared hooves flashing. The goblin lunged with invisible blade. The witch and wizard formed a shield wall. Voldemort shattered them, not with one curse. With 3 cast simultaneously from different angles, each targeting structural weaknesses that shouldn't have been visible. The statues exploded. Metal fragments became shrapnel. Dumbledore's shield caught most of it. Most. One shard cut across his cheek. Blood ran bright red against Silverbeard. He didn't flinch. Instead, he gathered the fountain's water. All of it. Hundreds of gallons rose into the air, forming a sphere that surrounded Voldemort completely. Trapped. Drowning. For 2 seconds. Then, the water froze solid. Ice that radiated cold enough to make frost spread across the floor. Voldemort stood at the center, perfectly dry, wand raised. The ice shattered outward in 1,000 blade-sharp fragments. Dumbledore's shield held, barely. Harry realized he'd stopped breathing. Frieren hadn't moved from her position by the fountain's base. She'd watched the entire exchange with the detached focus of someone observing an experiment. Now she stood staff in hand and turned her attention back to the floor. Voldemort noticed. "Stop her," he said. Not to Dumbledore, to something else. The shadows moved. Not metaphorically. Actual shadows cast by pillars, by broken statues, by Voldemort himself, peeled away from their sources and flowed across the floor toward Frieren, living darkness, moving with purpose. Frieren tapped her wooden rod against marble once. The shadows froze, not stopped. Frozen in place, as if she'd locked the space they occupied into temporal stasis. Voldemort's eyes narrowed. "Interesting," he murmured. Dumbledore used the distraction. His wand traced 3 rapid patterns. The air itself became weapon compressed, sharpened, invisible until it struck. Voldemort blocked 2. The third caught his shoulder, tore fabric, drew blood that looked too dark to be human. He hissed. Not pain, annoyance. Then he vanished. Apparition inside the Ministry was impossible. Every ward, every enchantment, every protective measure said so. But Voldemort had stopped caring about impossibility years ago. He reappeared behind Dumbledore. Wand already moving. Green light. Dumbledore spun. No shield this time. He simply wasn't where the curse expected him to be. The killing curse passed through empty space and hit a pillar. Stone cracked. Something deep in the building's foundation groaned. The two wizards circled each other. Wands raised. Neither spoke now. Speaking was for politicians and teachers. This was something older. Frieren completed her scan of the floor. "Found it," she said, to herself, to no one. The final anchor point sat directly beneath the atrium. Deep, integrated into the Ministry's foundational enchantments. Destroying it would require precision, power, time. She began to gather energy. The air around her changed. Temperature dropped. Not gradually, instantly. Frost formed on nearby surfaces. Her breath misted white. The wooden implement in her hand began to glow, not blue this time, but white-edged with something darker. Violet. Wrong. Voldemort felt it. He broke off his engagement with Dumbledore, turned fully toward Frieren, and for the first time since entering the atrium, his expression shifted from cold amusement to genuine assessment. "You're not bound by this world," he said. Frieren glanced up, met his red eyes with green ones. "No." "What are you doing?" Ending this, Voldemort's wand came up, not threatening, questioning. "The anchor. You're going to destroy the anchor." "Yes." "That will collapse half the building." "Parts of it, yes." Dumbledore's voice cut through. "Tom, if you have any sense of self-preservation." Voldemort laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed off ruined marble, sharp and brittle and entirely without humor. Self-preservation from an elf with delusions of competence. He took one step toward Frieren. "I am beyond death, beyond mortality. What can you possibly threaten me with?" Frieren's expression didn't change. "Your continued existence in this building." She drove her implement into the floor. The marble didn't crack. It simply ceased to exist. A perfect circle 6 feet in diameter vanished as cleanly as if it had been cut from reality. Below it, the anchor point became visible, a knot of golden light and dark shadows, pulsing with power. That predated the Ministry, predated modern magic, predated most of recorded history. Voldemort understood immediately. He fired. Not Avada Kedavra. Something faster. A spell without name or color, just force, condensed into a point sharp enough to punch through steel. It never reached her. The space between them folded. Harry saw it happen, geometry that made his eyes water, dimensions compressing until there was no straight line from Voldemort to his target. The curse traveled forward and somehow ended up traveling backward, dissipating harmlessly into the ceiling. Dumbledore seized the moment. Both hands on his wand now face set in concentration that bordered on strain. The entire atrium's remaining enchantments responded to his will. Protective wards meant to prevent unauthorized entry now became cage. Golden light materialized in a sphere around Voldemort. Not solid, translucent, but absolutely impassable. Voldemort tested it with 3 different curses. Each one splashed against the barrier like water against stone. Impressive, Albus. Still calm, still in control. But you can't hold this forever. I don't need forever, just 30 seconds. Frieren's hands pressed against the edges of the hole she'd created. Power built. Not the controlled precision she'd shown destroying previous anchors. This was deeper, older. The kind of magic that didn't care about human comfort or modern sensibilities. The atrium shook, not from an earthquake. From the anchor fighting back. It had been stable for centuries, comfortable, integral to the building's structure. Now something was trying to tear it loose, and it protested with all the accumulated power of 300 years of continuous enchantment. Cracks spread from Frieren's position, across the floor, up the walls. The enchanted ceiling flickered. Stars died, constellations faded, and for one terrible moment, the actual ceiling became visible. Old stone, crumbling, held together by magic that was rapidly failing. Voldemort's prison shattered, not because he broke it, because the building's structure was compromising so rapidly that even Dumbledore couldn't maintain coherent spellwork. The golden sphere simply dissolved. Voldemort stepped free. His wand came up pointing at Frieren's back. The veil arrived. Not physically, but its influence. Black tendrils of pure wrongness seeped through the cracks Frieren had created, reaching up from level 9 like smoke in reverse. They didn't move like liquid or gas. They moved like thought, instant, purposeful, hungry. One tendril touched a fallen Death Eater's body. The corpse aged 50 years in 3 seconds. Flesh withered. Bones turned brittle. The mask cracked and fell away, revealing a skull that looked centuries old. Everyone froze. Dumbledore's face went pale. Voldemort's wand hand trembled, barely visible. But there. Even Harry, pressed against his pillar, felt ice flood his veins. Frieren kept working. Her hands glowed white-hot now. The anchor point pulsed, fighting, screaming silently as it was methodically dismantled. The black tendrils reached toward her, drawn by the massive outpouring of energy. She spoke one word, not English, not Latin, something older. The space around her became absolute. The tendrils hit an invisible wall and stopped. Pressed. Couldn't advance. Dumbledore recovered first. Everyone out, now. But there was no out. The lifts had stopped working. The flu network was compromised. The only exits led through corridors already claimed by the Veil's expansion. They were trapped. Voldemort made a decision. He turned. Not fleeing. Repositioning. His wand traced a pattern Harry had never seen, complex geometric burning after images into the air. Dark magic. The kind that required payment. A doorway opened. Not physical. A tear in space itself leading somewhere else. Somewhere dark and cold and very far away. Voldemort looked back once, at Dumbledore, at Frieren, at the crumbling atrium and the black tendrils and the apocalypse they'd invited into the Ministry's heart. This isn't over, Albus. It never is, Tom. Voldemort stepped through. The tear sealed behind him. Gone. Frieren ripped the anchor free. The sound was beyond description. Stone screaming, metal tearing, magic dying. The atrium's floor buckled. Entire sections simply fell away, revealing level 2 below, then level 3, then darkness. Dumbledore grabbed Harry and Hermione. His wand moved faster than thought. Levitation, force, desperation. They flew, not gracefully. Dumbledore wasn't trying for elegance, just distance, getting them away from the epicenter before the whole structure came down. They hit the corridor 20 feet from the atrium entrance, hard. Harry felt something in his shoulder protest. Hermione cried out. Dumbledore was already moving back, wand raised, preparing some enormous working. Frieren walked out of the collapsing atrium, calm, unhurried. Behind her, the floor continued to fall away. The ceiling rained chunks of ancient stone. The black tendrils writhed and grasped and found nothing to hold. She stopped at the corridor's threshold, turned back, held her implement parallel to the ground. The destruction stopped, not healed, not reversed, just stopped. As if she'd drawn a line and told reality this far, no further. The settling dust revealed the damage. Half the atrium floor was simply gone. The fountain had vanished into the pit. The enchanted ceiling hung in tatters. Emergency wards flickered uselessly, but it hadn't spread. Frieren lowered her wooden rod. The violet-edged glow faded. "Done," she said. Dumbledore stared at her. Then at the ruined atrium. Then back at her. The anchor, destroyed, all 5. She paused. The veil should begin collapsing inward within the hour. By dawn, it will be inert. Should, will. No uncertainty in her tone, just correction. Harry struggled to his feet. His shoulder hurt. His scar burned. He felt like he'd been trampled by a herd of hippogriffs. Voldemort, he managed. He got away. Frieren turned towards him. Her green eyes showed no triumph, no satisfaction. Just acknowledgement of fact. Yes, he was always going to. People like him don't fight battles they might lose. She glanced at Dumbledore. You knew that? Dumbledore nodded slowly. I did. But you kept him here long enough. Did I? Yes, 3 minutes. That was sufficient. They stood in the ruined corridor. Around them, the Ministry creaked and groaned. Somewhere distant water rushed through broken pipes. Alarms wailed in empty offices. Hermione found her voice. What happens now? Frieren walked to the nearest wall, placed her palm against stone, felt vibrations invisible to others. Now, she said, now the Ministry covers this up. They blame someone, probably me, and your headmaster explains why he allowed a stranger to destroy government property. Dumbledore's expression was unreadable. And where will you be during this explanation? Gone. Just like that. Frieren withdrew her hand from the wall, met his gaze directly. The crisis is contained. My assistance is complete. What happens next is politics. I don't do politics. And if they come looking for you, they won't find me. She said it with such absolute certainty that Harry believed her. This small elf who'd destroyed 5 Ministry anchors, fought Death Eaters, and survived the Veil's influence. Without breaking a sweat, yes. If she wanted to disappear, no amount of searching would find her. Dumbledore seemed to reach the same conclusion. He inclined his head. Respect between equals. Thank you, he said, for the lives you saved. Frieren tilted her head, almost a nod. You're welcome. Then she walked away. Down the corridor, into darkness. Gone. Harry watched her go. Wanted to call after her, ask questions, demand explanations. But Hermione's hand on his arm stopped him. Let her go, she whispered. The Ministry's alarms continued to wail. In the distance, auras shouted. The crisis wasn't over. Not politically. Not for Harry, not for any of them. But the Veil, the thing that could have consumed the entire building, the entire city that was done. And somewhere in the settling ruins, Harry heard it. Faint, almost imaginary. The whispers had stopped. The silence was worse than the screaming. Harry sat in what remained of Level 8 back against a wall that still felt warm from spell damage. Around him, Order members tended wounds. Hermione had a gash across her forehead. Neville couldn't stop shaking. Ron had arrived with reinforcements 10 minutes too late, face white when he saw the destruction. The atrium was gone. Just gone. A crater where the Ministry's heart used to be, but the silence that was new. For hours, the Veil had whispered, thousands of voices speaking in languages, living and dead, promising things that sounded like comfort and felt like drowning. Now nothing. Kingsley Shacklebolt limped past coordinating what was left of the Auror office. His robes were scorched. One arm hung at an odd angle. Status, Dumbledore's voice carried across the makeshift triage area. He stood near the corridor's edge, peering down toward Level 9. Toward where the death chamber used to be. 17 casualties, Kingsley said. 4 confirmed dead. The rest, he trailed off. We're still searching. The Veil, Kingsley hesitated. It stopped expanding, but it hasn't collapsed. Dumbledore's expression darkened. Where is Miss Frieren? Level 9. She went down 20 minutes ago. Alone. Moody clomped over, magical eye spinning wildly. Alone after what just happened? She said she needed to verify something. Kingsley's jaw tightened. I couldn't stop her. Hell, I'm not sure I wanted to try. Harry pushed himself upright. His shoulder protested, probably dislocated during Dumbledore's emergency levitation. I'll go. You'll stay here, Dumbledore said. Not unkindly, just firm. You've done enough. But, Harry, Hermione's hand on his arm, let the adults handle this. The words stung more than they should have. But she was right. He'd watched Frieren fight Death Eaters, demolish ministry foundations, survive the Veil's direct influence. What could he possibly contribute? Still, he wanted to see. Dumbledore must have read something in his expression because his tone softened. "Come if you must, but stay behind me, and if I tell you to run..." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. They descended. The stairs were intact. Barely. Each step groaned under their weight. Emergency lighting flickered on for 3 seconds, off for 5, creating a rhythm that felt almost deliberate. Level 9 was a ruin. Walls cracked. Floor buckled. The death chamber's door hung off one hinge, revealing darkness beyond. But it was the air that made Harry's skin crawl. Too cold. Too thick, like breathing underwater without actually being wet. Frieren stood in the center of what used to be the chamber. The archway was still there, stone untouched despite everything. The veil hung motionless within it. No movement, no whispers. She had one hand extended toward it, not touching, just feeling. Dumbledore stopped at the threshold. "Miss Frieren, what have you found?" She didn't turn. It isn't just a barrier, it remembers. Remembers what? Everyone who passed through. Every death. Every crossing. Her voice remained flat. Clinical. But something underneath suggested deeper interest. 3,000 years of accumulated passage, all stored in the fabric itself. Harry's scar twitched. Not pain. Recognition. Like the piece of Voldemort in his head was reacting to proximity with something equally wrong. Dumbledore stepped closer, carefully. The anchors are destroyed. The expansion should have reversed. Should have. Frieren lowered her hand, turned to face them. But destroying the anchors didn't weaken it. It removed constraints. Now it's stabilizing on its own. The temperature dropped 5 degrees. Moody's magical eye locked onto the veil. That's not possible. Thresholds don't self-sustain. They require power sources. Yes. Frieren walked to the nearest wall, pressed her palm against cracked stone. Luminescence spread from her fingers, not blue this time, but pale green, almost sickly. It found one. What kind of power source? Dumbledore's tone sharpened. Death. She withdrew her hand. The glow faded. 4 people died in this building tonight. The veil absorbed them. Their energy, their passage. It's using that to maintain cohesion. Harry's stomach twisted. You mean it's eating them, not eating, integrating. There's a difference. Frieren tilted her head, studying the archway like a puzzle that refused proper solution. In my experience, thresholds are passive. They exist. They don't act. This one... She paused. This one was violated so badly, it learned to act in self-defense. Dumbledore was quiet for 3 heartbeats. Then, how do we stop it? We don't. Not conventionally. She turned from the wall, met his gaze directly. You'd need to either starve it, prevent all death within its influence range for approximately 6 months, or overload it with more power than it can process. 6 months of no death. Moody's laugh was bitter. In a government building, in the middle of London. Impossible, Dumbledore agreed. Which leaves overload. Yes, and what would that require? Frieren's expression didn't change. Still calm, still analytical. More death than you're willing to provide. The words hung in cold air. Harry wanted to ask. Wanted to demand specifics. But the look on Dumbledore's face stopped him. The headmaster understood something Harry didn't. Something about thresholds and power and costs measured in lives. From somewhere above, footsteps, voices, ministry officials probably, coming to assess damage, coming to find someone to blame. Dumbledore straightened. We need another option. There isn't one. Frieren walked toward the archway again. Stopped 3 feet away, closer than anyone else dared stand. Unless she was quiet, thinking. Harry recognized the expression from watching Hermione work through particularly difficult arithmancy problems, calculation, variables, probabilities. "The veil stores passage," she said slowly. "Every death that crossed through left an imprint. Magical signature, soul resonance." She glanced back. What if we could reverse one? Dumbledore went very still. Reverse a death. Not resurrection, retrieval. If someone crossed recently within hours, their signature might still be distinct enough to pull back. Moody's real eye narrowed. "You're talking about yanking someone out of the afterlife. I'm talking about interrupting a transition that hasn't fully completed." Frieren turned fully toward them. "Your friend. The one who fell through earlier. His passage was involuntary, unintended. The veil might not have fully processed him yet." Harry's heart stopped. Sirius. The name echoed in the ruined chamber. Sirius Black, his godfather, who'd fallen through the veil during the battle, who Harry had watched disappear behind black fabric expression, frozen in surprise. Dumbledore's voice was very gentle. "Harry, can you do it?" Harry stepped forward. "Can you bring him back?" Frieren studied him, green eyes showing no pity, no false hope, just assessment. "I don't know. I've never attempted threshold reversal on a structure this unstable. But it's possible. Theoretically, then try." "Harry." Dumbledore's hand on his shoulder. "We don't know what that would cost, what it might require." "I don't care. You should." Frieren's tone didn't change. Still matter of fact. "Threshold reversal requires anchoring. Someone to pull against. Someone the target has strong connection to." She paused. "Someone willing to serve as living counterweight." The implications settled slowly. Harry worked through them. Someone connected to Sirius. Someone alive. Someone willing to... "Me," he said. "Absolutely not." Dumbledore's grip tightened. "Harry, you don't understand what you're offering. I understand Sirius is my godfather. I understand he fell through saving me. I understand when... You understand nothing." Frieren's interruption was sharp, not angry, just precise. "If the reversal fails, both of you cross over. Permanently. No resurrection, no second chances. Dead." Harry met her gaze, didn't flinch. "Then don't fail." For the first time since meeting her, Harry saw something shift in Frieren's expression. Not sympathy, recognition. Like she'd seen this kind of determination before centuries ago in people now long dead. "It would take time," she said. "Preparation. And I'd need materials this building doesn't have." "How much time?" "Hours, maybe days. The longer we wait, the less distinct his signature becomes." From the corridor above, voices grew louder, official sounding, demanding. "Need to know who authorized?" "Structural damage is catastrophic. Minister demands answers immediately." Dumbledore looked toward the sound, then back at Frieren. "The Ministry will interfere. They'll want you contained, questioned, possibly arrested." "I know. I can buy you time, but not much." Frieren nodded once. "How much?" "Until dawn. After that..." He trailed off. Both of them understood. After dawn, political pressure would force action, arrests, inquiries. The machinery of government grinding forward whether it helped or not. "Dawn is sufficient." Frieren turned back to the veil. "I'll need the boy, and anyone else with strong connection to the target." "Remus," Harry said immediately. "Lupin, he and Sirius were there close, best friends." "Good. 2 anchors are better than 1. She knelt beside the archway, placed both palms flat on stone floor. That pale green luminescence returned, spreading in patterns that hurt to observe directly. Geometric, precise. Wrong in ways Harry couldn't articulate. Moody watched for 3 seconds. Then, This is madness. Yes, Dumbledore agreed, but it's madness with purpose. The footsteps above grew closer. Ministry officials emerging from lifts. Security personnel. Maybe aurors loyal to fudge rather than truth. Dumbledore straightened his robes, adjusted his half-moon spectacles. When he spoke, his voice carried complete authority. Alastair, get Harry to safety. Find Remus. Tell him what we're attempting. He paused. And tell him he has the right to refuse. And you? I'll handle our visitors. Moody grabbed Harry's arm. Come on, Potter. Time to go. Harry resisted. But now. Moody's real eye was sympathetic. His magical eye stayed locked on the approaching footsteps. Let Dumbledore work. Let Frieren prepare. We've got our own job. They left. Behind them, Frieren continued her preparations. Hands moving in patterns. Light spreading across ancient stone. The veil hung motionless black fabric, neither moving nor still existing in state between states. And deep within that fabric, somewhere beyond sight or sound, or normal understanding, signatures waited. Imprints of passage. Echoes of death. One of them was Sirius Black. Harry climbed stairs with mechanical precision, each step taking him further from the death chamber, further from the veil, further from any chance of understanding what Frieren was actually attempting. At level 8, he turned back once. Through the doorway, past the ruined corridor, he could just barely see her. Small figure kneeling before something vast and incomprehensible, working with calm focus on a problem that had no right answer. She's crazy, Harry said quietly. Moody's reply was equally quiet. Probably, but she's our kind of crazy. The emergency lights flickered again. On, off, on. In the darkness, between pulses, Harry could have sworn he heard something. Not whispers, not voices, just the veil, breathing, waiting, remembering everyone who'd ever passed through, and wondering in whatever way thresholds could wonder if it was about to give one of them back. The evacuation began at 3:47 a.m. Kingsley Shacklebolt stood at the Flu Network hub, coordinating traffic that shouldn't have existed. 30 fireplaces, all active simultaneously, straining enchantments designed for sequential use. Green flames roared. Witches and wizards stumbled through, singed and coughing. Next group, Kingsley barked. Injured first, move. An auror with one arm and makeshift sling pushed 3 ministry workers toward the nearest fireplace. They vanished in emerald flash. The enchantment flickered. Kingsley swore under his breath. Moody clomped past magical eye spinning. Flu Network's dying. Maybe 10 more trips before total failure. How many left? 47 confirmed. Maybe more trapped in sealed sections. 47 people, 10 trips. Math that didn't work. Kingsley keyed his communication charm. Dumbledore, we have a problem. The reply came instantly calm, despite everything port keys. Already tried. The instability is interfering with long-range transport. We're getting maybe 70% reliability. 70% is better than 0. Use them. Kingsley gestured to 2 junior aurors. They produced battered teacups, broken quills, fragments of parchment objects, hastily converted into emergency transport. Not elegant, not safe, but functional. People grabbed them, disappeared with characteristic port key jerk. Some made it. Others reappeared 3 seconds later, retching the magic, having rejected their passage entirely. In the atrium crater, Frieren worked. She'd cleared space in the rubble, created a circle approximately 10 feet in diameter, marked with patterns that seemed to shift when observed directly. Pale light emanated from the markings, not constant, but pulsing in rhythm with something deep below. Dumbledore descended via conjured stone platform. His expression was grave. How long? Minutes. Frieren didn't look up from her preparations. The Foundation is compromised in 17 critical points. If I don't act soon, the collapse will happen naturally, uncontrolled. And if you do act, still collapse, but directed. Contained to the infrastructure surrounding the Threshold's anchor network. Dumbledore was quiet. weighing, calculating costs neither of them wanted to voice. "How much of the building?" he asked finally. "Approximately 30%. Levels 7 through 11. Sections of 6 and 12 as collateral." "That's catastrophic." "Yes." She finally met his gaze. "But localized catastrophe is preferable to total. If this spreads to the surface?" She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Dumbledore closed his eyes, took one long breath. When he opened them again, decision made, "Do it. But give me 15 minutes. I'll give you 10. He didn't argue. Just turned and began issuing orders with quiet authority that brooked no discussion. Aurors scattered. Emergency teams mobilized. The last fragments of functioning bureaucracy bent towards singular purpose: get everyone out. Harry found Remus on level 6, helping an elderly witch navigate debris. "Dumbledore says..." "I know." Remus's voice was hoarse. "Frieren told me about Sirius, about the reversal, and I'm terrified." He steadied the witch past her to another rescuer, turned to face Harry directly. "But I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. Dumbledore said you could refuse. He also said you'd already volunteered." A wan smile. "Can't let you face that alone." They descended together, past ruined corridors, through emergency lighting that barely functioned. The air grew colder with each level. By the time they reached 9, their breath misted white despite summer heat above. Frieren had moved to the threshold chamber. She stood before the archway, both hands extended but not touching. The veil hung motionless, silent. But the space around it felt wrong, compressed heavy, like atmospheric pressure before a storm. "You're here." Statement, not question. "Good. Stand there and there." She indicated positions on opposite sides of her circle. "Don't move once the working begins. Don't speak. Don't break the pattern." Harry took his out of his position. Remus took his. Between them, Frieren knelt at the circle's center. From above, faint sounds, final evacuations. Portkeys activating. Flew flames roaring. Voices shouting coordinates and destinations. Then silence. Dumbledore's voice echoed down. "We're clear. You have authorization." Frieren placed both palms flat against the floor. The world held its breath. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Just a small elf, kneeling in a circle of light, surrounded by ruins attempting something that had no right to succeed. Then the ministry began to die. Not explosively, not with fire or sound. The building simply started to come apart at fundamental levels. Enchantments woven into stone for 3 centuries unraveled. Wards protecting against intrusion dissolved. Spells maintaining structural integrity failed in cascades. Level 11 went first. The floor buckled, then fractured, then fell away entirely. Offices plunged into darkness below. Filing cabinets crashed through empty space. The Hall of Mysteries, containing artifacts too dangerous to catalog, collapsed inward, sealing itself through sheer coincidence of falling debris. Level 10 followed. The Department of Magical Transportation, Port Key Regulation Offices, International Travel Coordination. All of it dropping into the growing void, taking with it records of every magical journey made in Britain for the past 50 years. Level 9, the Death Chamber's level, was already gone. Frieren had made certain of that. The threshold remained standing, impossible, and alone in space that should not have supported it. Levels 8 and 7 destabilized together. Cracks raced through walls, support columns snapped. The atrium crater widened, consuming adjacent halls, pulling them into gravitational collapse that followed no natural law. Above, Dumbledore stood at level 6's edge, monitoring. His enchantments protected this level and higher. Silver light formed a dome translucent barrier, holding back the destruction through sheer force of will. It wouldn't hold forever. He knew that. Frieren knew that. They'd calculated 10 minutes maximum before his strength failed. 9 minutes to go. In London proper, the ground trembled. not earthquake. Something subtler. A vibration felt more in bones than through surfaces. Car alarms activated for 3 seconds, then silenced. Windows rattled. Old buildings with foundations from Roman times groaned. Muggle news would report it as minor seismic activity. Geologists would puzzle over readings that made no sense. But no one would know the truth that beneath Westminster, a government building was consuming itself to prevent something worse. Inside the threshold chamber, Frieren's circle blazed. The pale light intensified, white, edged with violet, burning without heat. The patterns shifted, reorganized, formed shapes that hurt to perceive. Harry felt pressure building. Not physical, something deeper. Like reality itself was being compressed around them. Remus's face had gone bone white. But he held position. Frieren spoke. Not English, not Latin, not any language Harry recognized. The words felt older than the language should be, primal sounds that preceded grammar and structure. The veil responded. Black fabric rippled. For the first time since Frieren had destroyed the anchors, it moved. Not threatening, not reaching, just acknowledging. Like something vast waking from sleep it hadn't intended. Whispers returned. Thousands of voices speaking in unison, overlapping until individual words became meaningless. But underneath the cacophony, Harry heard something specific. A voice he knew. I didn't mean to. Serious, faint, distant, but definitely there. Frieren's hands moved in complex patterns. The circle's light focus narrowed, became beam aimed directly at the veil's center. Where it struck, the fabric parted, not tearing, opening. Like wound acknowledging surgeon's touch. Now, Frieren said. Call to him. Harry's throat was dry. Serious. Nothing. Louder, with intent. You're not calling to a person. You're calling to a signature, an imprint. Make it recognize you. Harry tried again. Put everything into it. Grief, hope, desperation, the certainty that losing Sirius was wrong in ways he couldn't articulate, but felt absolutely. Sirius Black, come back! The veil shuddered. Something moved within it. A shape. Human-sized. Pushing against fabric from the wrong side, trying to find its way back. Remus joined in. Padfoot, we're here. Follow us. The shape came closer. The whispers grew louder, angrier, as if whatever existed beyond the threshold was protesting this violation of natural order. But Frieren's circle held. Her enchantments carved space where space shouldn't exist, creating channel through which passage could reverse. Level 6's ceiling cracked. Dumbledore's shield wavered. Sweat beaded on his forehead. 7 minutes had passed. His strength was failing faster than calculated. Hurry, he called down. Not panic, just information. Frieren's expression didn't change. Absolute focus. She rotated her right hand 90 degrees. The beam of light intensified, and with it came sound, not whispers, but something deeper. Fundamental vibration. The threshold itself resonating. The shape in the veil pressed forward. Almost through, almost, the ministry lurched. Not from Frieren's controlled collapse. From something else. The veil responding to reversal, destabilized in ways no one had predicted. Black tendrils erupted from the archway's base, not reaching for victims, but lashing out blindly, anchoring to whatever they could find. One caught Frieren's circle. The light flickered. Her eyes widened. Just slightly. First sign of concern Harry had seen from her. Anchors, she said sharply. Hold. Harry planted his feet. Remus did the same. They weren't wizards holding spells. They were weights. Living counterbalance to whatever force was trying to pull Sirius, and now possibly them, into the threshold's depths. The pull was immense. Harry felt it in his chest, his bones, the scar on his forehead burning with recognition of something equally wrong. He leaned into it, refused, every muscle locked. Beside him, Remus did the same. face contorted with effort, feet sliding backward across stone despite all resistance. The shape burst through. Sirius Black fell from the veil like a man falling through surface tension. He hit the floor hard, gasping, soaked in something that looked like water, but felt wrong. His eyes were wide, unfocused, seeing things that shouldn't be seen. Frieren's circle shattered. The patterns evaporated. Light died. Black tendrils recoiled, snapping back into the archway with sound like steel cables under tension. The veil went still, absolutely motionless, as if the effort of releasing what it had claimed had exhausted something fundamental. Above Dumbledore's shield failed. Level 6 buckled. The ceiling collapsed in sections, raining debris that should have killed everyone below. But Dumbledore's last act before collapse was one final enchantment levitation, holding the worst of it suspended just long enough for escape routes to clear. "Out," Frieren commanded. No inflection, just necessity. Now. Harry grabbed Sirius under one arm. Remus took the other. They ran. Behind them, the threshold chamber imploded. Not violently, just ceased. The archway remained standing for 2 seconds. After everything around it vanished, then followed stone turning to dust that hung suspended in air before drifting down like snow. They made it to level 5 before the shaking stopped. Silence descended. Absolute wrong. Harry lowered Sirius to the floor. His godfather was breathing, eyes tracking movement now. Still looked half dead, but unmistakably alive. "Did we?" Sirius's voice was rasped. "Did that actually work?" "Apparently." Remus's laugh bordered on hysteria. "Don't ever do that again." Frieren stood at the corridor's edge, staring down into the crater where 5 levels used to be. Her expression was unreadable. Dumbledore appeared on conjured platform, descending slowly. His robes were torn. Blood ran from a cut across his scalp. But he was smiling, weary, sad, but genuine. "Miss Frieren, you succeeded, partially." She didn't look away from the destruction. "The reversal worked. The containment." She gestured at the crater. "Less successful than projected." "How bad?" 37% of the building is gone. Structural integrity of what remains is compromised. Magical infrastructure will require months to restore. The flu network is permanently damaged. Portkey regulation is destroyed. And she paused, frowned. "The threshold is still active." Everyone went still. "What?" Frieren turned, met Dumbledore's gaze directly. "It should have sealed when I broke the reversal. Closed itself. Become inert." She looked back at the crater. "It's still there. Stable. Stronger than before." From the darkness below, faint and impossible came sound. Not whispers, breathing. The veil, still alive, still waiting. And somewhere in London's depths, something else noticed. A presence vast and cold, observing through connections mortals couldn't perceive. It felt the threshold's transformation. Felt the boundary between life and death shift just enough to create opportunity. Lord Voldemort stood in a safe house miles away, hand pressed to his chest, where something fundamental ached. His Horcruxes. The pieces of his soul sensing upheaval in the forces they defied. He smiled. Thin. Cruel. "Interesting," he murmured to the empty room. "Very interesting indeed." Above the ministry, dawn broke. Pale light filtered through smoke and dust. London woke to reports of minor tremors. News anchors speculated about underground construction. Geologists prepared statements. No one knew, no one could know, that beneath their feet the barrier between worlds had been tested, violated, changed, and that change was far from over. Sirius Black was alive. That should have felt like victory. Harry sat in what remained of Level 5's Emergency Operations Center, watching his godfather breathe. In and out. Steady, real. But the silence in the room told a different story. Dumbledore stood at the window, or what used to be a window, before the glass shattered. Now just an opening onto dawn-lit London smoke rising from the crater below. His hands were clasped behind his back, perfectly still. Frieren sat cross-legged on the floor staff across her lap. She hadn't moved in 10 minutes, just stared at nothing with that same clinical focus Harry had learned to recognize as deep thought. Remus paced. 3 steps left, 3 steps right, repeat. Moody leaned against the wall, magical eye fixed on the corridor, watching for threats that might not come but probably would. No one spoke. Finally, Kingsley entered. His robes were singed. Ash marked his face in streaks. "We've got a problem." "Another one?" Moody's growl held no humor. "Voldemort's alive." The words landed with weight everyone had expected, but hoped wouldn't come. Dumbledore turned from the window. "How do you know?" "Aura Patrol found residue near Nocturne Alley. Dark marked signature. Fresh." He apparated out of the Ministry before the final collapse. Kingsley's jaw tightened. He's wounded, but functional. Harry's stomach twisted. "We hit him. I saw Frieren destroyed half the atrium with him still inside. Apparently not destroyed enough." Kingsley glanced at Frieren. "What would it take to actually kill him?" She didn't look up. "More than what happened. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." Now she did meet his gaze. Green eyes flat. Tired in a way that suggested centuries rather than hours. "I don't understand your enemy well enough to know his limits." Dumbledore moved to the table, conjured chairs with a wave. Everyone sat except Moody, who continued his vigil. "Then perhaps," Dumbledore said quietly, "it's time we discuss those limits." The old wizard's tone carried weight Harry recognized. This wasn't speculation. This was something Dumbledore had been dreading to share. Tom Riddle cannot die. Dumbledore let the statement hang. "Not conventionally. Not through combat. Not through any spell I know." Remus stopped pacing. "That's impossible." "No, just improbable and profoundly evil." Frieren's head tilted, interest flickering across her expression like spark in darkness. "Explain." Dumbledore steepled his fingers. When he spoke, each word came carefully measured. "Tom created anchors, objects containing pieces of his soul. As long as those objects exist, he cannot truly die. His body may be destroyed, but his essence persists." The room went very quiet. Harry felt something cold spread through his chest. Pieces of soul. That explained too much. The graveyard. Voldemort's resurrection. The way he'd survived his own curse 14 years ago. Horcruxes. Frieren said it like she was tasting an unfamiliar word. "That's what you call them?" Dumbledore's eyebrows rose fractionally. "You know the term." "No, but I know the concept." She stood, walked to the window's edge, stared down at the ruined Ministry. "Where I come from, we call it soul fragmentation. Usually accidental. Trauma severe enough to crack essence, leave imprints." Pause. "But deliberate fragmentation..." Her tone didn't change. Still clinical, still analytical. "That's different." "How many?" Kingsley's question was sharp. Dumbledore's expression darkened. "I don't know. At least 2, possibly more." Tom was always fascinated with the number 7. 7 pieces don't know us." Remus looked ill. "That's monstrous." "Yes." Dumbledore's fingers tightened fractionally. "And effective. Each fragment serves as anchor point, tether keeping him bound to living world. Destroy the objects, destroy the anchors. Only then can he be killed permanently." Harry's scar burned. Not pain, recognition. Something in him responding to talk of fractured souls and anchored existence. Frieren turned from the window. "I felt something wrong when I fought him. His presence was incomplete, like observing reflection in broken mirror. All the pieces there, but arrangement fundamentally damaged. You sensed his soul's state. Dumbledore leaned forward. Through combat, through proximity, souls have resonance. Yours is whole. His... She made a gesture like crumbling something between fingers. Shattered. Can you detect the fragments? Kingsley asked immediately. Track them down. No. The flat refusal seemed to surprise everyone. Why not? Harry heard himself ask. Frieren looked at him. Because fragment detection requires knowing what you're searching for. Each piece would have a unique signature. And I've never encountered this before. Your enemy's soul architecture is... She paused, searching for words. Unprecedented in my experience. So we're blind. Moody's magical eye spun. Wonderful. Not entirely. Dumbledore pulled a memory from his pocket's silvery strand contained in small vial. I've been investigating Tom's past. His obsessions, the objects he valued most. I have theories about what he might have chosen. Theories aren't intelligence. Kingsley's tone was respectful but firm. We need certainties. In war, we rarely get certainties. Dumbledore pocketed the vial. But we work with what we have. Harry's mind raced. Horcruxes, soul fragments, objects containing pieces of Voldemort. That meant, how do we destroy them? He asked. Everyone looked at him. The objects, Harry pressed. You said destroy the objects, destroy the anchors. How? Dumbledore was quiet for 3 heartbeats. Difficult question. Horcruxes are protected by powerful magic. Conventional spells won't work. You'd need something that could damage soul-level enchantments. Like what? Basilisk venom, fiend fire, certain exceptionally rare curses. Dumbledore's gaze shifted to Frieren. Or perhaps methods from outside our magical tradition entirely. Frieren understood immediately. You're asking if I can destroy them. Can you? She was quiet, thinking. Finally, if I can examine one. Understand its structure. Yes, probably. Probably, Moody growled. I don't make promises I can't guarantee. She met his glare without flinching. Soul-level magic is delicate, unpredictable. Even in my world, tampering with it carries risks. What kind of risks? Remus asked. Feedback, contamination. The fragment trying to preserve itself by latching onto whoever's destroying it. Pause. Death. The word hung in air like smoke. Dumbledore nodded slowly. Then we proceed carefully. One step at a time. First, locate the objects. Second, confirm they are indeed Horcruxes. Third, destroy them systematically. And Voldemort? Kingsley asked. He's not going to sit idle while we hunt his soul fragments. No, he'll adapt. Dumbledore's expression was grim. Tom has always been a strategic thinker. Now that he knows we have someone capable of bypassing conventional magical defenses, he trailed off. Didn't need to finish. Frieren completed the thought. He'll shift tactics, avoid direct confrontation, play the long game. Exactly. Harry's hands clenched. So what do? We divide our efforts. Dumbledore stood, began pacing. The Order focuses on locating Horcruxes. I'll use my resources, my knowledge of Tom's history. Meanwhile, the Ministry, what's left of it, manages political fallout and maintains concealment protocols. And Frieren, Moody's question carried edge. Everyone looked at her. She tilted her head, considered. The threshold is still active, still dangerous. Someone needs to monitor it. Make certain it doesn't destabilize further. You're staying? Harry asked. Couldn't quite keep surprise from his voice. For now, until the situation resolves or I'm no longer useful. She paused. Whichever comes first. Dumbledore smiled. Faint but genuine. Your assistance continues to be invaluable, Miss Frieren. She didn't return the smile. Just acknowledged with slight nod. From the corridor came footsteps. Urgent. A junior aura burst in, face pale. Sir, we've got reports from the Prophet. They're already running the story. Ministry attack, casualties, destruction, Kingsley swore. How much do they know? Enough to cause panic. Not enough to understand what actually happened. Perfect. Moody's laugh was bitter. Just what we needed. Public hysteria. Dumbledore's expression hardened. Get ahead of it. Official statement from the Ministry. Controlled narrative. Whatever it takes to prevent mass panic. The Auror nodded and fled. Silence returned. Harry stared at his hands. Thought about Horcruxes. About pieces of soul hidden in objects scattered across Britain. About a war that couldn't end until every fragment was destroyed. It's going to take years, he said quietly. No one contradicted him. Frieren walked to the window again, stared out at London. Dawn had fully broken now. The city waking. Muggle world continuing its routines, completely unaware of the battle fought beneath their feet. In my experience, Frieren, she said, wars rarely end cleanly. They just transform, shift shape, become different conflicts with new stakes. Encouraging, Moody muttered. Realistic. She turned back. Your enemy fragmented his soul to avoid death. That makes him patient, strategic, willing to wait decades if necessary. Pause. You're not fighting a wizard anymore. You're fighting an ideology that refuses to die. Dumbledore's expression showed no surprise, just sad agreement. Tom always did think in centuries rather than years. Then we'll have to think longer. Remus's voice was steady despite everything. Outlast him, outmaneuver him, whatever it takes. Harry wanted to believe that. Wanted to feel the determination Remus projected. But all he felt was weight. The knowledge that this wouldn't end soon. Maybe not in his lifetime. Frieren seemed to read his expression. You're young. This burden shouldn't be yours. But it is. Harry met her gaze. Isn't it? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. They both knew. Dumbledore cleared his throat. We've made progress tonight. The threshold is contained. Sirius has been retrieved, and we now understand the true nature of our enemy. He paused. That's more than we had yesterday, and less than we need tomorrow. Kingsley stood. I'll coordinate with what's left of the Auror office. Start compiling intelligence on Voldemort's known associates, locations he's been cited, objects he valued. Good. Dumbledore nodded. Remus, stay with Sirius. He'll need time to recover from threshold exposure. Remus moved to his friend's side. Sirius still breathed, still lived. Small victory in War of Inches. Moody clumped towards the door. I'll sweep the perimeter. Make sure no Death Eaters are stupid enough to come back. One by one, they filed out. Tasks assigned. Roles clear. War Machine grinding forward despite exhaustion. Harry stood to follow. Harry, Dumbledore's voice stopped him. A word. The old wizard waited until the room emptied, then spoke quietly. Your connection to Tom, through your scar. You felt something when we discussed Horcruxes. Not a question, observation. Harry nodded. That connection is both weapon and vulnerability. Tom can sense your emotions. You can sense his. As this war continues, that link will become more important. Dumbledore's blue eyes were serious. And more dangerous. What do I do? Learn to shield. Guard your mind. And trust very few people with what you feel through that connection. Pause. Including yourself. The cryptic warning settled like ice. Dumbledore squeezed his shoulder. Go. Rest. Tomorrow brings new challenges. Harry left. Found Hermione and Ron waiting in the corridor outside. They'd been listening. Of course they had. Horcruxes, Ron said numbly. He's actually unkillable. Not unkillable. Hermione's voice was firm despite shock. Just very difficult to kill. There's a difference. Is there? Yes, because difficult means possible. Harry wanted her certainty, her logic. but all he felt was exhaustion. They walked together through ruined corridors, past emergency crews still clearing debris, past aurors establishing perimeter, past ministry workers staring at the crater where their careers used to be. Frieren remained at the window, alone, watching dawn spread across London with expression that suggested she'd seen too many dawns like this. Too many wars that refused to end cleanly. Outside in Nocturne Alley, Lord Voldemort stood in shadow. His shoulder burned where Frieren's attack had connected. Not lethal, not even permanent, but painful. A reminder. He touched the spot gently, felt damaged flesh, felt something deeper, the way her magic had bypassed his defenses, reached towards something fundamental. She'd sensed it. His fragmentation, his anchors. Interesting, very interesting, he smiled. Thin, cold. So, he murmured to darkness, the game changes. He apparated away. Gone into network of safe houses and loyal followers. Gone to adapt, to plan, to wage war from shadows rather than battlefields. Because Frieren was right about one thing. He thought in centuries, and this war was just beginning. The Daily Prophet arrived at breakfast. Harry sat in the Great Hall. They'd been evacuated to Hogwarts, while the Ministry remained unstable, and watched the owl drop the newspaper onto Hermione's plate. She unfolded it with hands that shook slightly. The headline screamed in bold letters, "Ministry attacked mysterious elf, destroys government headquarters." Below it a photograph, grainy, taken from distance, but unmistakably Frieren standing in the atrium's ruins, surrounded by destruction. The sub-headline was worse. "Dangerous outsider or savior ministry officials demand answers." Hermione read aloud, voice tight. Sources within the ministry confirmed that an unknown magical being, described as an elf of indeterminate origin, was granted unprecedented authority to demolish critical infrastructure. Casualties are estimated at 17 dead, 43 injured. Minister Fudge could not be reached for comment. Ron grabbed the paper, scanned further. They're calling her a threat. Listen to this. Experts warn that allowing foreign entities to operate within our borders sets dangerous precedent. He looked up. They're not even mentioning Voldemort. Of course not. Dumbledore's voice came from behind them. He stood at the high table's edge, looking older than Harry had ever seen him. Acknowledging Tom's return would mean acknowledging their own failures. Much easier to blame someone external. Harry's jaw tightened. That's insane. She destroyed 30% of the ministry. Dumbledore's tone was gentle but firm. From their perspective, that's indistinguishable from attack. Intent matters less than optics. Across the hall, students whispered, stared. News had spread fast. The ministry's symbol of magical government for centuries had been gutted from within, and the person responsible sat in Dumbledore's office, probably not caring at all about public opinion. Harry found her there, an hour later. Frieren stood at the window staff, leaning against the wall beside her. She was watching students cross the grounds below. Her expression suggested she was cataloging them, analyzing patterns, the way a naturalist might observe animal behavior. "They're writing about you," Harry said. "I noticed." She didn't turn. "Bad things, I assume." "Mostly. Expected." Still no emotion, just acknowledgement of fact. Institutions don't like being saved by outsiders. It implies weakness. Dumbledore entered carrying tea, set 2 cups on his desk. "The political situation is deteriorating faster than anticipated. Fudge is preparing an official inquiry into last night's events." "An inquiry?" Frieren finally turned from the window. "What will that accomplish?" "Officially establish accountability. Unofficially," Dumbledore's smile was thin, "find someone to blame who isn't him." "Will they try to arrest me?" "They'll try." Harry's stomach dropped. "Sir, you can't let..." "I can't stop the ministry from attempting what they believe is lawful action." Dumbledore sat heavily. but I can ensure Miss Frieren has time to make her own decisions about her continued presence here. Frieren tilted her head. You're giving me an exit. I'm respecting your autonomy. For 3 heartbeats, silence. Then Frieren walked to the desk, picked up one of the teacups, examined it like she'd never seen porcelain before. I came to this world because the threshold called to me, she said quietly. A boundary being violated, magic warping in ways it shouldn't. That interested me professionally. And now, Dumbledore asked, now the threshold is stable, contained, still dangerous but no longer expanding. She set the cup down without drinking. My primary objective is complete. Harry felt something cold spread through his chest. You're leaving. Yes, but the Horcruxes Voldemort the war are your problems, not mine. She met his gaze directly, green eyes showing no apology, just truth. I'm not a soldier. I'm not your weapon. I studied a phenomenon, addressed an immediate crisis, and now I'm done. People died. Harry heard his voice crack. 17 people. You said you'd help. I helped. Her tone didn't change. Still flat, still clinical. I prevented the threshold from consuming the entire city. I destroyed the anchors that allowed its expansion. I even retrieved your godfather from beyond death itself. Pause. That's more than helping. That's intervention on scales I rarely permit myself. Dumbledore raised one hand gently. Harry, she's right. We cannot demand more than she's willing to give. But we need what you need, Frieren interrupted, is to understand that some wars can't be won by overwhelming force. Your enemy fragmented his essence specifically to avoid conventional defeat. No amount of magical power will solve that. Only intelligence, patience, and the willingness to pursue him across years, possibly decades. She walked back to the window, stared out at grounds bathed in morning sunlight. I've fought wars like this before. Conflicts where the enemy refuses to die, where ideology outlives individuals, where victory means outlasting rather than destroying. Her voice carried weight of centuries. They don't end cleanly. They transform, become different struggles with new names. Harry wanted to argue, wanted to demand she stay, help them hunt Horcruxes, end this faster. But the words died in his throat, because she was right. This wasn't the kind of war solved by one powerful ally. Dumbledore spoke softly. When will you leave? Tonight, after the inquiry formally begins. I'd rather not deal with bureaucratic theater. Where will you go? Frieren shrugged. Elsewhere. I have commitments, a journey I was on before this detour. She glanced at Harry. There are people waiting for me. Have been for months. I should return to them. The casual mention of another life, another world, hit Harry harder than it should have. Of course, she had somewhere else to be. She'd never been theirs to begin with. Will you come back? He asked. If things get worse. She was quiet, thinking. Finally, if the threshold destabilizes again, if boundaries between life and death start tearing across this world, then yes, I'll notice and I'll respond. Pause. But your war with Voldemort, that's yours to fight. Dumbledore inclined his head. Fair enough. A knock at the door. McGonagall entered, expression severe. Albus. The Ministry has sent formal summons. They're demanding Miss Frieren present herself for questioning within the hour. Frieren's mouth twitched, almost a smile. They work fast. Desperation breeds efficiency. Dumbledore stood. Minerva, please inform the Ministry that Miss Frieren is currently indisposed, recovering from injuries sustained during last night's defense of their headquarters. McGonagall's eyes gleamed. Of course, Headmaster. How unfortunate that her injuries prevent travel for at least 48 hours. Indeed, tragic really. After McGonagall left, Frieren actually did smile. Small, brief. You're buying me time. I'm preventing a diplomatic incident. Dumbledore's tone was dry. If they arrest you, they'll have to explain why they're detaining someone who saved thousands of lives. Much easier to let you disappear quietly. Pragmatic, necessary. He walked to his desk, pulled out a small object, a compass brass and ancient looking. Before you go, a question. Frieren waited. You sensed Tom's soul fragmentation. You said his essence was incomplete. Dumbledore's blue eyes were serious. Could you sense the fragments themselves? If you encountered a Horcrux, she considered. Possibly, if I was close enough, if I knew what to look for. Pause. Why? Because I have theories about what objects Tom might have chosen. But theories aren't certainties. If you could confirm even once that my suspicions are correct. He trailed off, left the request unspoken. Frieren studied him, reading intent, finally nodded. If you bring me a suspected object before I leave, I'll examine it. Thank you. She took the compass, turned it over in her hands. What is this? A way to find me, if you ever need to. Dumbledore smiled faintly. Or, if you change your mind about this world's problems being none of your concern, I won't change my mind. Then consider it insurance against threshold emergencies. She pocketed the compass without further comment. Harry left them there, walked the corridors with thoughts churning. Frieren was leaving. The war continued. Voldemort adapted. The Ministry turned hostile. Everything had changed and nothing was resolved. He found Ron and Hermione in the library. They were surrounded by books, ancient texts on soul magic, historical accounts of dark wizards, anything related to Horcruxes. Research, Hermione said without looking up. If we're going to hunt these things, we need to understand them completely. Ron gestured at a particularly massive tome. Did you know soul fragmentation was considered theoretical? Until the 14th century, nobody thought it was actually possible. Voldemort proved them wrong. Harry slumped into a chair. Frieren's leaving tonight. Both of them looked up. For good? Hermione asked. Yeah. Silence. Then Ron said quietly, Can't blame her, really. Not her fight. Doesn't make it easier. No. But it makes it ours. Hermione's jaw set with determination Harry recognized. Which means we learn everything we can. We find the Horcruxes. We destroy them, however long it takes. Somewhere beyond Hogwarts. In a safe house buried beneath London streets, Voldemort stood before his gathered Death Eaters. 10 of them. The ones he trusted most. The ones smart enough to fear him appropriately. The elf is not the problem, he said softly. Dangerously. Fear is the problem. Bellatrix shifted. My lord, she destroyed half the Ministry, and retreats already. The prophet confirms it. She's leaving Britain. Voldemort's red eyes swept across his followers. Which tells us what? Silence. Then Lucius Malfoy spoke carefully. That she was never invested in their war. Only the threshold anomaly. Precisely. Voldemort began pacing, hands clasped behind his back. She came. She addressed her concern. She departs. That is not an enemy. That is a temporary inconvenience. But her power is irrelevant if she is not here. Voldemort stopped, turned. Dumbledore has lost his greatest advantage. The one weapon that could bypass conventional magical defenses. Now he's back to what he's always had, aging warriors, teenage students, and hope. Thin smiles spread across masked faces. We adapt, Voldemort continued. We avoid direct confrontation. We work through proxies, through politics, through the very institutions they're trying to protect. His gaze hardened. And we secure the anchors. All of them. Ensure they cannot be found or destroyed by conventional means. And if the elf returns, Bellatrix asked, she won't, not for this. Voldemort touched his chest where Frieren's attack had connected. The wound still ached. Reminder of power that existed outside normal frameworks. She cares about thresholds, about boundaries, about maintaining cosmic order. His smile was cold. She does not care about wizarding politics, or teenage boys with destiny complexes, or old men fighting wars that should have ended decades ago. He was right about that much. The Death Eaters dispersed. Plans forming. Strategies adjusting. The war entering new Phase 1 fought in shadows and committee rooms rather than dueling halls. Above them, London continued its routines, unaware, protected by ignorance and deliberate concealment. The Muggles read about minor tremors, complained about construction noise, never suspected the truth. At Hogwarts evening fell, Frieren stood in Dumbledore's office one final time. On the desk sat a locket, old ornate, bearing the Slytherin crest. Dumbledore had retrieved it from a vault marked in his personal notes. She held it carefully, closed her eyes, extended senses beyond normal perception. After 30 seconds, she opened her eyes. Set the locket down. It's one of them, she confirmed. Fragment inside, wrapped in protective enchantments I don't recognize, but definitely soul-level magic. Dumbledore's expression showed relief and dread in equal measure. You're certain? Completely. She stepped back. The signature is unmistakable, torn rather than whole, anchored rather than free. Can you destroy it? Probably, but I won't. At Dumbledore's look, she continued. You need to learn how, to understand the process, so you can handle the others without me. She gestured at the locket. Study it, find its weaknesses, develop methods. That could take months. Then you have months. Better than years. She picked up her staff. My advice, focus on the container, not the fragment. Soul magic is resilient, but physical objects have limits. Destroy the vessel, the fragment loses anchor. Dumbledore absorbed this, nodded slowly. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. She walked to the door, paused. One more thing. Yes, the boy, Harry, his scar. Dumbledore went very still. I felt it during the threshold work, when we reversed Sirius's passage. Frieren's tone was clinical, detached. That connection you mentioned, it's not just psychic link. There's soul resonance. Similar signature to what I sensed in Voldemort. She met his gaze. You know what that means. Dumbledore's face was unreadable. I have suspicions, then act on them before it becomes critical. She opened the door. Good luck with your war, Albus Dumbledore. I hope you survive it. Then she was gone, down the stairs, through corridors, out into grounds bathed in moonlight. She walked without urgency. Just steady progress toward Hogwarts' boundary where she could apparate freely. Harry caught up at the gates. Wait, he called. Frieren stopped, turned. Harry struggled for words. I wanted to say thank you. For Sirius. For everything. She nodded. You're welcome. Will we ever see you again? Possibly, if boundaries keep tearing. She tilted her head, studied him the way she'd studied everything with clinical interest and no emotional investment. You remind me of people I knew once, long ago. They fought wars like this, tried to save their world. Did they succeed? Some did, some didn't. Pause. But they all kept trying, even when logic said to stop. That's what humans do. Keep fighting despite impossibility. She said it like observation, not praise, not criticism, just fact. Is that a good thing? Harry asked. Frieren was quiet. Then, I don't know. Ask me in a few centuries. She turned, walked through the gates, stopped at the boundary. For one moment she looked back. Not at Harry specifically. At Hogwarts. At the castle holding children who'd be drawn into war whether they wanted it or not. at the world that kept tearing itself apart and refusing to learn from it. Then she apparated, gone. The war continued without her, but it continued differently now. New rules, new strategies, new understanding that victory wouldn't come through overwhelming power, but through patience, intelligence, and the willingness to outlast immortal enemies. In the ministry's ruins, workers began reconstruction. Engineers assessed damage. Bureaucrats drafted reports that carefully avoided mentioning dark lords or threshold violations. The veil sat silent in its chamber, contained, stable, but not gone, waiting, always waiting. For the next time someone tried to force open doors that were meant to stay closed, and somewhere distant traveling roads, only she could see Frieren walked, staff in hand, thoughts already shifting to the journey she'd left unfinished months ago. The Harry Potter world was behind her now. Just another detour in a life measured in centuries. Another war she'd witnessed, but not won. Another reminder that humans, magical or otherwise, never learned. But they kept trying, and maybe she thought as she walked into dawn, that was enough.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our future video. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.